I woke up in a panic at 9 a.m., heart already racing before my eyes even focused. The alarm on my phone had betrayed me again, silent, dead battery from the night shift. I bolted upright in the narrow bed of my small apartment in Colden Grove, Michigan, sheets tangled around my legs like they were trying to hold me back. My head throbbed from the 12-hour repair marathon fixing heaters in half the town, but there was no time to complain. I had an appointment at the auto shop across town in 20 minutes, and being late meant losing the gig. I scrambled out of bed, hair a mess, still in the same faded black t-shirt and jeans I'd worn yesterday. No time for a shower. I grabbed my keys, shoved my feet into boots, and yanked the front door open. The autumn morning hit me like a slap. Cold wind slicing through the thin fabric, fog hanging low over the quiet street. The wooden porches along the row of houses were still wet with dew, leaves plastered to the sidewalk. I stepped onto the front stoop, rubbing sleep from my eyes, ready to sprint to my beat-up pickup. That's when her voice cut through the silence like a knife. "You didn't zip your pants!" I froze mid-step. My body locked up as if someone had hit pause on my life. Slowly, too slowly, I looked down. The zipper on my jeans was wide open. The fly gaped like a stupid grin, exposing the gray boxer briefs underneath. Heat exploded across my face, burning from my neck to my ears. I snapped my hands down to cover myself, fumbling, cursing under my breath. Across the street, the door of number 24 had just swung open. There she stood. Selena Wyatt, the new neighbor who'd moved in less than 2 weeks ago. 38 years old, blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail, wearing a soft gray sweater that looked too expensive for this small town. She held a steaming coffee mug in one hand and pointed straight at me with the other. Her expression caught somewhere between shock and barely contained amusement. Our eyes met. For one long, mortifying second, the entire world narrowed to that single point. Me standing on my porch with my pants unzipped, her standing on hers with perfect posture and a raised eyebrow. I opened my mouth, but the only thing that came out was a strangled, I was just checking the wind direction. It sounded even stupider out loud. Selena's lips twitched. She pressed them together, clearly fighting a laugh, then turned and stepped back inside without another word. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood there, hands still clutching the front of my jeans, face on fire. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I wanted the ground to open and swallow me whole. Then, movement. The second-floor window of her house slid open. The thin, white curtain fluttered in the breeze like a flag of surrender. A soft laugh drifted down through the fog, light and musical, but sharp enough to sting. "Next time, remember to zip up," her voice called, clear and teasing. "The whole town might miss it, but I won't." The curtain swayed once more, then settled back into place. I didn't move for what felt like forever. My fingers finally found the zipper and yanked it up so fast I nearly caught skin. I muttered to myself, voice shaking with embarrassment. Great, just great. First thing in the morning and the new neighbor already saw me looking like an idiot. I glanced back at her house. The curtain was still there, thin, almost transparent in the morning light, moving gently like it was breathing. I had no idea then that that stupid, humiliating moment was the beginning. That thin curtain would soon stop being just a piece of fabric, and the woman behind it would stop being just the neighbor across the street. I turned, walked to my truck, climbed in, and slammed the door harder than necessary. My reflection stared back at me from the rearview mirror, dark skin flushed, eyes wide, still trying to process what just happened. I started the engine, but even as I pulled away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something small. Something irreversible. And that thin curtain? It was already starting to open. After that humiliating morning, I started avoiding Selena Wyatt like she was contagious. Every time I heard the sharp click of her high heels on the sidewalk or caught a glimpse of her high ponytail and sauve sweater through the window, my stomach twisted. I'd duck behind my truck, pretend to check the oil, or suddenly remember I had to grab something from the back seat, even if the back seat was empty. In my head, it was simple math. She saw me with my pants unzipped. She definitely told someone. Probably everyone. By now, the whole street knew Logan Reese couldn't even dress himself properly before stepping outside. I pictured her standing at the fence with Mrs. Julie, sipping coffee, laughing softly while pointing toward my house. "You won't believe what I saw this morning." Or worse, Her telling Mr. Dan at the auto shop, the guy who already thought I was too young to know what I was doing with heaters. I could almost hear the low chuckle, the head shake. Poor kid. Can't even zip up. Every time our eyes accidentally met, maybe while I was taking out the trash or walking to my truck, she'd give a small nod, a polite good morning, and I'd mumble something incoherent, drop my gaze, and practically sprint away. Once I bent so low over the trash bin, I nearly hit my forehead on the lid. Smooth, Logan. Real smooth. Then the flyer appeared on the community board by the mailboxes. Neighborhood block party. All residents required to attend. 7:30 p.m. Backyard. Bring a dish to share. Required. The word stared back at me like a threat. I stood there in the late afternoon light, staring at the paper as if it might spontaneously combust if I glared hard enough. Required? What kind of neighborhood forces people to show up to a potluck? I crumpled the corner of the flyer in my fist, then smoothed it out again. No escape. All day at work, I was useless. I tightened the wrong bolts, forgot to check the pilot light twice, and nearly dropped a wrench on my foot. My brain kept replaying worst-case scenarios. Selena standing in the middle of the yard, holding court, recounting the story with dramatic pauses. Everyone laughing. Someone even bringing my jeans as a prop. Exhibit A, ladies and gentlemen. By the time I got home, I was exhausted from the mental marathon. I collapsed onto the couch without turning on the lights, still in my work shirt, boots unlaced. The apartment smelled like motor oil and coffee. I stared at the ceiling, replaying her voice from that morning. Next time, remember to zip up. I groaned, dragged a hand down my face. Maybe she hadn't told anyone. Maybe she'd forgotten. Maybe I was torturing myself for nothing. But the doubt sat heavy in my chest like wet concrete. When 7:30 rolled around, I still hadn't decided whether to go. I lay on the bed, arms behind my head, lights off, door unlocked. The sounds of the neighborhood drifted in, car doors slamming, laughter starting up in the backyard, the faint sizzle of something on the grill. I told myself I'd just stay in. No one would notice. I'd claim I had a late call out. But then I thought about her standing there, maybe wondering why I didn't show. Maybe thinking I was too embarrassed to face her. Maybe feeling sorry for me. That stung more than the idea of being laughed at. I sat up, cursed under my breath, pulled on a clean black hoodie over my work shirt, and grabbed a bag of chips from the kitchen. The only thing I had that qualified as a dish to share. I stepped outside. The backyard was already alive. String lights looped through the trees cast a warm gold glow. Long tables groaned under casseroles, potato salad, grilled chicken, deviled eggs. Kids ran between legs. Someone had a Bluetooth speaker playing soft R&B. The air smelled like charcoal and cinnamon. I hovered near the edge, clutching the chip bag like a shield. My eyes scanned automatically. There she was. Selena stood near the dessert table talking to a small group. Mrs. Julie on one side, a young couple I didn't know on the other. She wore a chestnut-plaid button-down tucked into long denim skirt, sleeves rolled to her elbows. Casual, but somehow still elegant. She laughed at something Julie said, head tilting back slightly, and the light caught her face just right. I swallowed. She hadn't seen me yet. I edged toward the grill, hoping to blend into the smoke. A kid barreled past, shoulder-checking me. My soda can, when had I even grabbed a soda, tipped and fizzed over my jeans. "Shit, sorry," the kid yelped. "It's fine," I muttered, shaking the can. "Really?" But now my pants were wet. Again. I glanced up. Selena was looking right at me. Our eyes locked across the yard. No smile, no smirk. Just steady, like she was measuring something. My pulse kicked up. I turned away first, busied myself opening the chip bag, pretending it required all my concentration. A few minutes later, I drifted toward the food table, telling myself I needed a plate. She drifted from the other side at the same time. We met in the middle. She reached for a plastic fork. I reached for napkins. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she broke the silence, voice low and calm. "Food looks good tonight." I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, looks good." Silence stretched again, thick as the fog that morning. She leaned in just slightly, voice barely above the music. "You know, People are saying I've been telling stories about the neighbors. My stomach dropped. I looked up, startled. I didn't say that. I just. She tilted her head, a small, almost gentle smile tugging at her lips. Then maybe next time, she said quietly, you should ask me instead of writing the whole script in your head. The words landed soft, but they hit like truth. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She didn't wait for me to recover. She picked up her plate, gave me one last look, not mocking, not pitying, just open, and walked back toward her group. I stood there holding napkins I didn't need, heart thudding against my ribs. For the first time since that morning, the embarrassment felt smaller. And something else, something warmer, started to take its place. I stepped out of my dark apartment feeling like every pair of eyes in the yard was already locked on me. The string lights glowed gold overhead, turning the backyard into something almost magical. Long tables loaded with food, kids darting between legs, the low hum of conversation mixing with R&B from a portable speaker. But to me, it felt like walking into an interrogation room. I hugged the edge near the grill, the bag of chips still clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Smoke curled up from the coals, stinging my eyes. I scanned the crowd without trying to look obvious. There she was, Selena, standing near the dessert table with Mrs. Julie and a couple of younger neighbors. She wore that chestnut plaid shirt tucked into a long denim skirt, sleeves rolled up, hair still in that neat ponytail. She laughed at something Julie said, head tilting back, and the light caught the curve of her cheek. For a second, I forgot to breathe. Then I remembered why I was hiding. I strained to hear over the music and chatter. Selena was just telling us the funniest thing. Oh, it's nothing. Just some old story about the wind catching the curtain. Her face turned so red, though. My stomach plummeted. They were talking about me. She was telling them, right now. The whole damn neighborhood was in on it. I gripped the chip bag tighter, plastic crinkling under my fingers. A kid, maybe 8 or 9, barreled past me, shoulder slamming into my side. My soda can, when had I even grabbed it, tipped and fizzed cold liquid down the front of my jeans. Oops, sorry, mister. It's fine, I muttered, shaking the can. Really, go play. But now my pants were soaked again. Perfect. Another wardrobe disaster, this time in public. I looked up. Selena was watching me. Not laughing, not smirking, just looking steady. Like she was trying to figure something out. Our eyes held for a beat too long. I turned away first, pretending to study the grill like it held the secrets of the universe. A few minutes later, I drifted toward the food table. Told myself I needed a plate, needed to look normal. She moved at the same time from the opposite side. We met right in the middle. She reached for a plastic fork. I reached for napkins. Neither of us spoke at first. Then she did, voice low enough that only I could hear over the music. Food looks good tonight, I swallowed. Yeah, looks good. The silence stretched, heavy. She leaned in just a fraction, eyes on the table but words aimed straight at me. You know, people are saying I've been telling stories about the neighbors. My heart slammed against my ribs. I looked up, startled. I didn't say that. I just thought. She tilted her head, a small, almost gentle smile touching her lips. Then maybe next time, she said quietly, you should ask me instead of writing the whole script in your head. The words landed soft, but they stung like truth. I opened my mouth. Nothing intelligent came out. She didn't wait. She picked up her plate, gave me one last look, not mocking, not pitying, just open, and walked back toward her group. I stood there holding napkins I didn't need, pulse hammering in my ears. For the first time since that morning on the porch, the embarrassment felt smaller. And something else, something warmer, something dangerous, began to stir in its place. I didn't follow her. I couldn't. But I also couldn't stop watching her walk away, ponytail swinging slightly, shoulders relaxed like she hadn't just dismantled every defense I'd built in the last 2 weeks. The party carried on around me, laughter, clinking plates, kids shrieking. But my world had narrowed to the space between us. I didn't know her at all. I didn't know why she'd yelled that morning, why she'd laughed from the window, why she hadn't spread the story like I was sure she had. But for the first time, I wanted to. and that scared me more than any rumor ever could. The party wound down slowly, the way these things do in small towns. The string lights dimmed one by one, laughter faded into quiet goodbyes, and people started folding chairs and stacking plates. I carried a couple of collapsible chairs toward the storage shed, glad for something to do with my hands. The conversation with Selena still echoed in my head. Her calm voice, that small smile, the way she'd called me out without making it cruel. I wasn't sure if I felt relieved or more exposed than ever. Then it happened. A sharp, cracking sound ripped through the night, like wood giving way under too much weight. It came from the row of houses across the yard. Crash! Followed immediately by the unmistakable shatter of glass. Someone screamed, a short, startled cry. "Is anyone there?" A woman's voice called, panicked. I knew that voice. Selena. I dropped the chairs without thinking and ran. My boots pounded across the damp grass, heart already in my throat. The other neighbors were turning, murmuring, but I was closest. I vaulted the low fence separating the yards and sprinted to her front door. The old oak tree by the sidewalk had lost a massive branch in the rising wind. It had smashed straight through her living room window. Glass glittered on the porch and inside the house. The thin curtain I remembered from that first morning billowed wildly in the sudden gusts, torn and flapping like a surrender flag. Selena stood just inside the doorway, phone in one shaking hand, the other pressed to her mouth. Her face was pale in the porch light. "You okay?" I gasped, skidding to a stop. She nodded, but her voice trembled. I can't get the back door open. It's jammed from the wind pressure." Another gust slammed through the broken window, sending papers flying inside. The porch light flickered. Thunder growled low in the distance, and the first fat raindrops started to fall. I didn't hesitate. I shrugged out of my hoodie, draped it over the jagged frame to cover the worst of the glass, and stepped inside. The living room was a mess. Shards everywhere, curtain whipping, wind howling through. "Stay right there," I told her. I moved fast to the back door, shoulder-checking it once, twice. The frame groaned. On the third hit, it gave way with a bang, swinging open into the dark kitchen. Selena let out a shaky breath. "Thank you." Before she finished, a sharp pop came from the side of the house, the electrical box. Sparks flashed once, then died. Every light in the place went out. Darkness swallowed us whole. The only illumination was the occasional lightning flicker outside and the faint glow from distant street lamps filtering through the broken window. "Logan?" Her voice came from right behind me, small and tight. "I'm here." I reached back without thinking, my hand finding her wrist in the dark. Her skin was cold. "Don't let go." Her fingers closed around mine instantly, gripping hard. We stood like that. Two people in a pitch-black house, wine screaming outside, rain starting to hammer the roof like 1,000 fists. The curtain thrashed behind us, glass crunched under my boots as I shifted to block more of the draft. Then out of nowhere she laughed. A soft, trembling sound that cut straight through the storm. "This is ridiculous," she whispered. I spent weeks worried people were laughing at me. And now I'm just scared you'll let go. My heart stopped, then started again twice as hard. "I almost did," I admitted, voice rough. "For weeks. Because I was sure you'd told everyone about that morning, the zipper thing." She was quiet for a long second. Lightning flashed, lighting her face, wide eyes, lips parted. "I never told a soul," she said softly. I yelled because I was startled. "And then you started avoiding me like I was contagious. I thought you hated me for embarrassing you." Another crack of thunder rolled overhead. I turned toward her in the dark, still holding her hand. "I didn't hate you," I said. I was mortified and convinced I'd become the neighborhood joke. She shook her head. I could feel the movement more than see it. "I didn't laugh at you, Logan. I laughed because, well, it was kind of endearing. A grown man rushing out half-dressed trying to save the day before coffee. It was human." Endearing, the word hung between us. "I didn't want you to disappear," she added, voice barely above the rain. "That's all." My thumb moved without permission, brushing across her knuckles. "Then I'm not going anywhere," I said. The storm raged harder, rain slamming the roof, wind howling through the broken window. Lightning lit the room in stark white flashes, showing us standing close, hands locked, faces inches apart. Neither of us moved to let go. I don't know how long we stayed like that, minutes, maybe longer. Just breathing in the dark, the truth finally out between us. No more assumptions. No more scripts I'd written in my head. The boundary we'd both been tiptoeing around for weeks? It was gone. There was no way back now. And for the first time since that foggy morning on the porch, I didn't want there to be. After that night in the storm, everything changed without anyone saying a word about it. Sunday morning started differently. I'd wake up early, brew a pot of coffee, pour one mug for myself and one extra. I'd walk across the street in the quiet light, place the second mug on her front step with a small folded note tucked under it. Sky's clear today. Open the curtains, let the sun in. L. I never knocked, never waited for an answer, but every time, within 5 minutes, the mug would disappear. And a few days later, a small box of homemade cookies or a wrapped sandwich would show up on my porch, always with a note in her neat handwriting. Eat breakfast before you head out to fix someone else's heater. No signature, just the words. The neighborhood noticed, of course. Small towns notice everything. Mrs. Julie started smiling wider when she saw me. Mister, Dan at the shop gave me a knowing nod and a good for you, kid. Even the kids stopped asking why I spent so much time looking across the street. We didn't move in together. We didn't announce anything. We didn't need to. Whenever thunder rolled in the distance, her living room curtain would twitch open. I'd step outside with a flashlight, stand under her porch light, and call up quietly, "You okay up there? Storm's getting loud." She'd lean out the window, hair loose for once, and shake her head with a small smile. "I'm fine, but thanks for checking." One early spring evening, the whole block lost power for 2 hours. No warning. Just darkness and the sudden quiet that comes when appliances die. I grabbed the camping lantern from under my sink, a pack of instant noodles, and walked across the street. She opened the door before I knocked. "Power's out," I said, holding up the lantern. "Figured you might want company." She laughed softly. "A date with instant noodles?" "A date during a blackout," I corrected, stepping inside. "You were expecting candles and wine?" We sat on her couch in the dim glow of the lantern, slurping noodles from paper bowls, the rain tapping gently against the new window pane I'd helped install the week before. She leaned her head on my shoulder without asking. I didn't move away. We didn't talk about what we were. We didn't need labels. We were just there. When the lights flickered back on, neither of us rushed to turn them all the way up. We stayed in the soft half-light, bowls empty, her head still resting against me. I looked down at her. You know, no one's ever made me feel like this. She lifted her head just enough to meet my eyes. Like what? Like I don't have to explain myself. Like I can just be. Her fingers found mine in the dark. Same. We sat like that until the power steadied and the neighborhood sounds returned. TVs humming, doors opening, life picking back up. No one called us boyfriend and girlfriend. No one asked when we were moving in together. No one needed to. Because every small thing we did said it louder than words ever could. A cup of coffee on the step, a box of cookies in return, a flashlight in the storm, a shared bowl of noodles in the dark. We didn't name the relationship, but it was there, quiet, steady, real. And for the first time in my life, that was more than enough.